vampires. Ooh, not a good thing. They're a pretty powerful group, the Talamasca. David Talbot tries to placate them with the final letter, warning that Lestat's amenities is more than the Watcher Society could handle. He tells them, "You have made yourselves an interesting adversary to one who loves challenges, and it will require all my considerable influence to protect you individually and together from the avid lust you have foolishly aroused." Basically, you ticked him off, and I am doing all I can to protect you all from him. And it builds, the novel builds upon a statement by David and Pandora that vampire powers have recently evolved to include psychic powers. And it was previously stated that a witch's powers are lost upon their transformation into a vampire. They may not see spirits, but they can sometimes still see ghosts. However, Merrick's human supernatural powers are retained in her vampire form. So this Talamasca, they're a powerful group. You really don't want to go against them. Like I said, they've been around since the beginning of time in the Mayfair Witches with Julian Mayfair and all that in Lasher. So this goes on because Louis wants to resurrect Claudia's spirit, but Claudia's still ticked. So Louis goes into depression, and then Lestat gets angered. But Merrick is she wanted to be a vampire, and she got her wish. But now she's even more powerful. Not only a vampire, but she retained her supernatural powers. So that was book 7. And this one is followed by, and I really enjoyed this one, Blood and Gold. Blood and Gold was great book. I hope you guys get a chance to read these. If nothing else, read The Mayfair Witches, because that book is just it's a pretty big book, but it's so interesting, and I love the history behind all of this. I think you would find it really, really, really not only entertaining but fascinating. I think you really would, and I think once you got started, you'd want to go back and read the other ones. The Blood and Gold is the 8th book in Anne Rice's Vampire Chronicles. Blood and Gold is this is followed by Blackwood. Blackwood Farm is phenomenal. It talks about Blood and Gold. It begins with an ancient vampire awakening after being frozen in a block of ice for hundreds of years. And his name is Thorn. He meets Marius, and Marius then provides his life story. Marius was abducted by druids who were trying to find a replacement for their god of the grove, a vampire who was kept locked inside a chamber underneath a tree. And he took on the role of a god in a Druidic religion. Marius does not want to receive the powers of the dying god, but is given them anyway. But he's not about to be imprisoned in a tree. He's like, no, don't think so. He escapes from the Druids, and he embarks on a trip to Egypt, where he learns of Akasha and Enkill, the mother and father of those who must be kept. He takes them back to Rome with him after learning that if they die, then every other vampire in the world will suffer the same fate. They were kind of Akasha and Enkill. They weren't dead. They were basically kind of turned to stone, but they were still alive in there. You'd leave them food or flour or whatever. for them, and you'd come back and it'd be gone. And every once in a while you could see a subtle change, but they never spoke, never really moved. So that's why they were called those who must be kept. And Marius falls in love with a mortal woman, Pandora, and turns her into a vampire. They live happily together for a long time. They argue a lot, but one day their house is attacked by a group of vampires who want to know the secrets of those who must be kept. And though they destroy the vampires, the attack leads to an argument between Marius and Pandora leaves. Marius returns to Rome. He creates a life of being a socialite, fraternizing with mortals, and practicing his painting. It is here he meets Mael and Avicus. Avicus is a former god of the Grove, a vampire older than Marius, but doesn't seem to understand or know about his own power. Mael and Marius don't quite get along, and Marius asks them to leave. They remain in the city of Rome, and Marius doesn't care. They keep the city free from other blood drinkers who may pry the secrets of those who must be kept from his mind. And he continues to live this way, even when the Roman Empire splits up. And of course, eventually, Marius, Mael, and Avicus leave Rome, and they travel to Constantinople. Of course, they take the mother and father with them, and they meet a powerful vampire named Eudoxia, who wants Marius to put those who must be kept into her care. And after praying to them for an answer, Marius relents just far enough to allow Eudoxia to see them. After a series of violent conflicts, Marius angrily drags Eudoxia back down into the shrine and casts her at Akasha. And she awakens to totally destroy her. And he realizes that every time he brings someone into his home, he can't live with them because of his duties to the mother and the father. It always ends up badly. They leave, or this one, she got killed by Akasha, so there you go. So he realizes he can't live with anybody. So he returns to Italy, and he becomes disheartened by the horrors of the Black Death, and he goes to sleep for hundreds of years. He just goes to sleep. But he awakes again during the Renaissance and travels all over Italy, visiting Venice and Florence. And in Rome he meets Santino, who claims that Marius is living in sin. We met Santino. He's that satanic cult leader. And he's living in sin because he's not serving Satan. Remember, we talked about Santino. He was the satanic cult. They lived underground, and they dressed in rags, like vagabonds almost, and lived in the crypts and stuff. It was quite interesting what they did. But Marius threatens him, and of course, Santino never to come near him again. And then Mario decides to make his home in Venice. And his house is set up for young boys to come and improve themselves, and become craftsmen. And he falls in love with the works of Botticelli. And in the book, he considers turning Botticelli into a vampire. That would have been interesting, if nothing else. And speaking of things like that, I think I had a request to do a piece on vampires. Real and or not, basically. So I'm thinking about doing that in the future here. So I had a request to do that piece on vampires, so we'll see what happens with that. There are people that are living the way of the vampire, but are there real vampires? That'll be open to discussion. Anyway, it's in Venice. Mario meets Amadeo, who becomes Armand. Years pass. Marius continues his life. He disappears to attend to the divine parents, as he calls them. While Marius is away at one time to attend to them, his house is attacked by the Englishman Lord Harlech, who became obsessed with Amadeo. But what happens is he gets stabbed with a poisoned blade, and of course, Amadeo becomes Armand the vampire. So, and Marius is burnt and almost killed, but he saves his own life by jumping into the canal. He is severely wounded and believes that Armand will be killed. So he calls a woman named Bianca, and they've known each other for a while. Marius is too weak to hunt, so he transforms Bianca into a vampire so she can help him. And the two move to the shrine of those who must be kept and live there for over a century. Marius had met with Raymond Gallant, a man from the Talamasca, who found out information about supernatural things, just for information. He hears from him that Pandora is being kept hostage by another vampire and moved around. So Marius decides to move to Dresden to talk to Pandora. He still loves her. He always has. But he doesn't tell Bianca of this. Here we go. Let's not tell each other what's going on. Marius finds Pandora there, but she doesn't want to live with him. And Bianca wants to stay with her traveling companion, who was not holding her hostage after all. So, 50 years later, as things are shifting in America, Marius discovers a letter from Pandora offering to live with him if he comes to collect her at a certain place, but alas, he was too late. Marius then finds a young vampire named Lestat, who, when playing a song for Akasha, wakes her up. And, of course, then he gets into the rock thing. So basically, this is the story of Marius and how he became the caretaker of those who must be kept. And Armand and Lestat, Bianca, Pandora, basically his backstory. The vampire Lestat's rock guitar music wakes him up. Marius feels that corrupted their minds. Akasha awakens from slumber, and she destroys Enkiel and buries Marius in the room of the house where he lies injured. He's there for weeks. But he has a mind gift. He can telepathically call for help, ask for aid, that he's in danger. But he soon found Pipator and Santino, who he tries to kill. But he realizes that he can't, because they have to join their forces to defeat Akasha. Because she wants to kill all the males, of course, and having a female-dominated world. Of course, with her as the leader. So, and then, of course, Macaire fights with Akasha and destroys her. And then everything moves back to present day, where Marius and Thor are at a jungle hideaway with other old and powerful vampires, Armand, Santino, Maharet, Macaire, and Pandora. Mario wants justice against Santino for taking Armand, but Maharet refuses to let him kill him. And Thorn does not want to accept her decision, so kills Santino himself with the fire gift. But in penance for defying her, he has to give his eyes to her. So, Blood and Gold is just basically a backstory of Marius and those who must be kept, and all the way up to the present. So that is the 8th book in the Vampire Chronicles. And it's just of, like I said, a backstory of Marius.